Okay. All right. So the meeting is being recorded. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and get started, everybody. Welcome to HALT 2025 Summer Summit Teacher Tuesdays. This is session one of 6 sessions, and today's session is going to be about the brain and CCLT and making those connections. If you haven't joined Pear Deck yet and you just logged in, we are using Pear Deck. So to join Pear Deck, you're going to go to joinpd.com, and then you're going to put in this code here, SZFGXP. And then I don't know, Jim, as people are coming in, could you maybe put that in the chat again for them?
Okay.
I believe it'll be up in the corner up here. You guys can see the code in the corner, right? Yeah, I think it'll stay there for the sessions. Okay. All right, so there is a recording in progress for this session because this is session one and it's more of an informational session. But our goals for this summer are to learn, grow, and connect together about language and language learning. And then we do have, I shared in the email that I sent out yesterday, the agenda document, which gives a little bit more detailed information about what we're going to be doing. And it also is where we're going to put access to the recordings and the slides once they're ready to go. And there's also a lot of other information on there for further learning as you spend your summer learning more. Okay, so I wanted to just take a second to thank everybody that helped with this. This is a very big joint process, so many different people are going to be helping out throughout the summer series and have already been helping out in preparation. So I just wanted to recognize everybody and thank everyone for your help with this. It is a joint effort for sure. And let's go ahead and get started. Evelyn?
Sure, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. Aloha, everyone. My name is Evelyn Coffey. I used to work at University of Hawaii. I was there for 8 years teaching French, and pandemic changed a lot of things about life. And I find myself in the Midwest now, teaching at Dowling Catholic High School. I teach French 1 and 2, although I've still been really connected to HALT and different professional development things that have been going on, and a lot of my colleagues are still I still have connections with. So that's what brings me still to HALT, specifically to this summer summit.
All right, thanks, Evelyn. And I am Jeenna Canché, and I teach Spanish on the island of Maui. I'm going to be moving to Kinkekalike High School this upcoming school year, and I'll be teaching Spanish 2 and then a combination 3-4 class. So if we would like to see who is here. So in Pear Deck, there's a place for you to write a response. If you could write your name, your school, what language you teach, and if the levels, if that's appropriate, so we can kind of see who all is here. Go ahead and start typing into Pear Deck. And if you just joined us, you can log into the Pear Deck by going to joinpd.com and putting in the code SZFGXP. And I'm going to go ahead and show the responses so we can see who's here. So Toshi teaches Japanese. Oh, middle school Japanese. We have Kalamaku. Welcome, Kalamaku. So happy to have you here teaching Olelo Hawaii 1, 2, and 3 this year. Jingwan, thank you for joining us here. Would love to get your support with the Chinese language specific over the next few weeks. That's awesome. Welcome, Maria. Maria, is this your last year? I think it's your last year. I think you're
No,
retired.
no, 3 more years.
3 more. Okay. Oh, yay. I'm glad you're going to stay. Well,
Yeah.
yay for us. Yay for students. All right. We have Kelly here teaching Spanish at elementary level. We have Jan doing Japanese, also elementary. Jaira doing Ilocano. Fantastic. We have an Ilocano. Spanish. I welcome Natalie. Good to see you here. We have some English for academic purposes. Gabby, welcome. Zach from Aya High School doing Español. Uno, dos, tres, y cuatro. That's what I was doing for a while, plus another one. Jody, welcome. Glad to have you here. Sarah doing Japanese. Aya, Japanese. Laura doing Spanish. Imelda, so we have Filipino and Ilocano, and Shiho doing elementary Japanese at Wilson. Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Let's go ahead and move on. Okay, so first of all, a quick disclaimer. Evelyn and I are not brain experts, but we're learners, right? And so we learned about the brain, and we're going to share what our connections are with you today. This is learning that, for me personally, this is actually something that I did over this spring. The Hawaii Department of Education, for those HIDOE teachers, you know, we have a 3 credit PD that can help boost our salaries. And there was actually a 3 credit PD that I did about the brain. And I was really excited because there were so many connections that I made between how the brain works with what I'm doing with CCLT. So that's kind of the how that got inspired. Oops. Okay. For the agenda today, we're going to do a warm-up question to start. We're going to do a quick review of CCLT. So if we're throwing out that term CCLT and you're like, what the heck is that? We're going to go over that with you quickly so you kind of have a sense of that. And then we're going to make those connections between the brain and CCLT types of activities. And then we'll wrap up and talk about the next sessions. So our warm-up question is, what is one activity that your students love in your class? So in Pear Deck, if you could type out what's that one activity your students really love, let's take a look and see what your students love to do. So special character. Oh, okay. Social elimination games. Oh yeah, my students beg to do Mafia. Cooking. Oh, of course. The unfair game. I did that this year for the first time and super fun. Quizlet and Gimkit. I love using Gimkit. I like that one. Let's see. Mania musical. Oh, music is always a great thing. Special person, cooking, origami, anything using your hands, like those hands-on types of things. Improvisation, charades. I keep hearing about Look It, and I haven't been able to get into it, but maybe that's something I need to try this year. And then anything food related, Four Corners. Oh, Look It. Oh, look, lots of Look It. And then improv. Okay, awesome. So the next question that I want to ask you is, why? Why do students love the activity or activities that you chose? So you have a little heart on your screen. You're going to drag that heart over the petal that describes why the students love that activity. And I'm going to show your responses here. All right, so it looks like people are still dragging a little bit, but we can see here that lots of people say fun and meaningful. A lot of people move and interact. They feel safe and supported. They feel successful. They're working with their friends. So all of these are important because all of these different types of activities are all related somehow to the brain. And they're also all related in some way to doing CCLT. So let's go ahead and move on. And we're going to just do a little introduction to CCLT. Evelyn?
So, what exactly is CCLT? If you've not heard CCLT spelled out, I want you to read these 3 options on your screen, option 1, 2, or 3, and then on Pear Deck, if you could just circle which one you think we are talking about today. These are 3 different instructional methods, approaches, what have you, but which one specifically is CCLT?
So,
Let's see if we can see our responses.
yep, I'm going to let everybody do their drawing first. Let me go ahead and show, and let's see. Give you about 5 more seconds. Oh, they got to read it. I'll give a little more than 5 seconds. All right. Was that enough time, you guys? Yeah? Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and show the responses, and I'm going to show them as an overlaid so we can see. Okay. So it looks like based on this overlay, so this is all your responses all sandwiched on top of each other. Most of you chose option 2, and some of you chose option 3. And so the correct answer is option two. Evelyn?
Yes, so CCLT stands for Comprehension-Based Communicative Language Teaching. So that is what we are focusing on connecting to brain research today. So this is an approach where students acquire language through meaningful, comprehensible input in low-stress environments, prioritizing comprehension over output until students are ready. So a little bit more about CCLT. We want to go to the next slide. How do we provide that meaningful, comprehensible input in a low stress environment to prioritize that comprehension over output? So in CCLT, there are 6 essential skills that we've kind of pared it down to that set the foundation for success in classes. And everything we're going to talk about later in this presentation are going to use these fundamental skills. So these are things like staying comprehensible to all students so that you can create those meaningful connections within the target language, pointing and pausing to go slow enough to help those learners follow and comprehend, frequently doing those comprehension checks as you go so that you can make sure that you're going slow enough that you are staying comprehensible, using your body to communicate, not just the words, but your body language, gestures, facial expressions, your enthusiasm, all of those things, and sheltering your vocabulary so you're not overwhelming learners and you're using that grammar in context. So if you're comfortable with CCLT, I'm sure all of this sounds really familiar to you. But if you're new to CCLT, I want to encourage you to explore a resource called kavairesources.com. This is a website that was built to support teachers who are interested in using more CCLT activities. It explains a lot of the research, it explains methodology, lots of really good information on this site. It was created for Hawaii teachers. So I really want to encourage you to go to this website, check out the essential skills. There are tons and tons of links to other people talking about these skills. So this is really like a library of sorts to really share with you strategies, terminology, kind of figure out what is the big deal with CCLT, with CI, with all of these other acronyms, and really give you a place to start exploring these things so that you can incorporate it more into your own teaching practices. So these essential skills are on the website, kavairesources.com, under strategies. You can click there and you can start to read more in depth about what these specific things look like in your classes. So definitely check that out.
And then I don't know if we mentioned it earlier or not, but in case we forgot to mention, there is a resource document that we're going to be sharing with you that has actually, I think it's already shared with you somewhere, but it has for today's sessions, it has links to all of the stuff that we're talking about. But you can also link to stuff through the slideshow as well. All right. Okay, quick pause. Are there any questions so far before we move on to the next section? Okay, all right. So let's go ahead and move into our first activity. The first activity is how are you feeling today? And so if you could take your icon, it's a thumbs up, it's a blue thumbs up, and drag it over the picture that shows how you're feeling today. And let's go ahead and show your responses so we can see how everybody is feeling. Okay, so we have lots of happy people today because it's summer. We have some anxious people. We have somebody who's hungry. I'm so sorry. We have some excited people. Looks like we have one person who feels something that's not on there. That might be kind of fun to figure out. Yeah, lots and lots of happy people. So we're gonna do this. We're doing this activity as sort of like a little check-in and it's something that I do in my classes every day where I check in with my students. This one in particular, we're gonna start. I'm gonna call on somebody. Let's see, I'm gonna call on Aya, and I'm gonna ask Aya, just share with us, Aya, how do you feel today?
I feel great. I feel good.
Okay, so did you choose happy? Is that which one you chose?
Yes, yeah, I think so. Yes,
Okay. Now,
most.
Aya, you're going to choose somebody else and they're going to guess why you feel happy. So just choose somebody else that's in our screen here and
Okay, so hi Jody.
Okay, Jody, you're just gonna guess. Why do you think Aya feels happy today?
Maybe because you had some good Japanese food.
Ooh, is that true, Aya?
Definitely yes.
Yes, excellent. Okay, now Jody's gonna tell us, how do you feel today?
I also feel happy.
Happy. And then Jody, you get to choose somebody to guess, why do you feel happy today?
Janice.
Janice. Why is Jody happy today? Oh, Janice, you're still muted.
Okay, all right. Because you're part of this summer session and we're going to learn all
Absolutely.
these wonderful things here.
Yes.
Yay. Okay. All right. Janice, how do you feel today?
I'm very happy and
Very
excited.
happy. Okay. And excited. Okay. So Janice, choose somebody to guess, why do you feel excited today?
Okay, let's do this in an orderly fashion. Okay, Toshi.
Hi, I think Jen is happy because she's in an excited summer session with the
Oh,
class.
is that true, Janice? Yes. Excellent. All right. Toshi, how do you feel today?
I feel happy too.
Oh, everybody's happy. All right. Toshi, who do you want to choose to guess why you feel happy?
Okay, I'll pick. Sorry, I'll have to scroll it. Elisa.
Lisa.
Think you feel happy because we are learning new things.
Awesome. All right, Elisa, let's make this the last one so we can move on. But how do you feel today?
I feel excited.
You feel excited? Who do you want to guess why?
I don't see many people. I am Evelyn.
Evelyn.
Is it because you are here today in our HALT summer session?
Yes. All right. Right on. Okay. So this activity, this SEL activity, is something that oops, sorry, I did the wrong button. It's something that I do in my classes in some form or fashion every day. And this is just a way for students to check in and kind of be part of the daily routine. And the reason that brains love this type of CCLT activity is because it helps students feel safe and supported. So one of the ways that they're feeling safe and supported is because it helps them to balance their limbic system, and specifically, it has an impact on the amygdala. So the amygdala is the emotional regulator. It's the part in the very, very center of the brain right here, and it's one of the oldest parts of our brain. And it really helps to center our emotions, but it can also detect threats and cause us to do that, like freeze, flight, what is it? Freeze, fight, or flight kinds of things. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that we have students whose amygdalas are very, very like mellow and normalized, because when it does that, then that increases their emotional engagement, and also it gives them a sense of psychological safety, which boosts their retention. So we also um, help students feel safe and supported, because when we do activities like that, we're helping them to lower cortisol levels. So the cortisol levels are the stress hormone that our students and we feel, that is released in the brain. And so when there's high levels of cortisol in our brain, that really hinders memory, it hinders focus, it hinders our learning, and it also hinders our emotional control. So when we do activities like that activity where we're just kind of checking in, making sure students feel safe, making sure that they're heard, this reduces that cortisol, and it helps support focus, mental clarity, and their readiness to learn. Also, our brain has both neurons and axons, which is kind of like the brain's wiring system. And so I mentioned that this is an activity that I do every single class, right? And so the students are getting lots and lots of repetitions of language because they're revisiting it every single day in class. Those meaningful repetitions that are in the varying context from class to class, that helps strengthen the neurons and the axons. The neurons are it's the part of the brain that transmits the information and then the axons carry the messages between the neurons. So as we give them that repetition, the axons grow stronger and stronger, and that is essential for acquiring vocabulary and grammar because those connections get really strong.
And so a lot of these different activities that we do when we are in our CCLT classroom do help support students to feel safe and to feel that support. I just want to do a quick disclaimer. This session, we're not going to learn about every single strategy, but rather a bigger overview of many strategies that do support the brain. So these strategies that you might see on your screen or in the Pear Deck, there are links. You can click on them. You can go explore during this presentation, after this presentation, over the next 5 weeks, or onto the Coffey Resources webpage. That's definitely there for you. Today, I'm just going to focus on one to kind of call it out to our attention and kind of link it to the research today. So that out of all these skills and activities, we have like the SEL activity, like that emotional check-in we did that really supports students feeling safe, building that safety. We do things like calendar talk with that daily repetition, where we celebrate everything in class as well, again, creating that supportive environment, different call and responses that provide rhythm in class and also creates that safety as you know what to expect. Limiting error correction, which I'll come back to, and shutting down inappropriate behaviors to really create that safe environment. The limiting error correction one, I think, is really interesting here because as language teachers, what we're hoping for is to create an environment where students feel that they can communicate, they feel they are building these skills and they want to use them in that environment. But when we hear someone make an inaccurate statement or they use the language in a way that is not correct, there's always this immediate reaction in me, at least, of like, oh, let me help you fix that so that next time you can do it better. When actually the research shows that in order to lower that cortisol level, to open up the brain, it actually is better to limit our error correction in class. Instead, if you think of working with like a really little child who's learning their first language and they say something like, "Mommy, water," and you say, "Oh, would you like a glass of water?" You are modeling a phrase that you eventually expect them to learn with enough repetitions. In that way, we're doing the same in our language classes, where we're not immediately telling students, oh, you used this in the wrong tense, but rather we're modeling back the correct language without pointing out and making them focus on the error. Because really we want to focus on the thing they did do, which was try in class to communicate, which can be so hard, at least for my high school teenagers, to ever even try to open their mouth. They're so afraid of being wrong. So limiting our error correction definitely lowers that cortisol. It balances that limbic system. It really supports that motivation of, I want to try because I'm not being corrected. I'm not being shamed. And then with the meaningful repetitions, they will eventually acquire those structures in the correct manner, as long as we continue to provide those opportunities. So it's not that we're ignoring it and letting things slide, quote unquote, but rather we're focusing on what they can do and really reinforcing that with those repetitions. So it's a great way in our CCLT classrooms that we can support students and really create that safety for them to try, which is what we all want them to do.
Yeah. And that link there for limiting error correction actually goes to a little bit older podcast by Bill Van Patten that is called There's no such thing as errors. And so if you're interested in learning more about that, you can link to that. There was a question in the chat. I saw Jody, you said, could you talk more about how I do this in person? So you're talking about the activity or like the SEL kind of check-in activity?
Yeah, I was wondering specifically, like if you had all students answer it in some way at the beginning and then you choose people individually.
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways I do this. The one that we did right now is slightly different. So I'll start with the way I normally do it. I have a slide with a whole bunch of different scaffolded like sentence starter types things and pictures with different emotions. I have them turn to their partner and talk to their partner and ask their partner, how are you feeling? and then their partner answers back, and they have to listen because when I call on them, they're going to answer not how they're feeling, but how their partner is feeling. And then I have a second slide that scaffolds that one. So I start at the beginning with that, and then eventually I add in the question and why. So how are you feeling and why? And then when they answer the why, sometimes they don't know the language yet. And so I'll help them by putting it up on the board and we'll start discussing it. And then over time, they eventually start acquiring it. So by the end of the year, everybody's tired because they didn't get enough sleep, or everybody's hungry because it's almost lunch. Those are the ones that seem to be the big ones. So that's one way. And then with this particular activity, when I do this one, all my students are in a circle. And so I start with the first person and they say how they're feeling. The next person then in the circle will say why they think they're feeling that way. Then they'll say how they're feeling, and then it goes like that. So similar to how we did, but instead of calling them, I just go in this circle. So does that answer your question? Okay, great. Okay, all right.
Right. So at this time, we want to ask a question
Oh,
from
sorry.
you,
I
or we
forgot.
can do
Go
that.
ahead.
Oh, we can totally ask it. Okay. What is one way that you help students feel safe and supported in your class? If you could take just a couple seconds, hit that answer question button on Pear Deck. We'd love to see what things you use. Maybe some of the stuff that we've thought of and put in our presentation. And I'm sure there are hundreds of other things that we didn't bring up. So we'd love to see what you guys do in your classroom.
Okay, and we're gonna have to go ahead and start seeing some responses. All right, so having them prepare with their partner before calling on them, trying not to correct but model things, giving them chances to share with a partner before they share with the class, having students talk about what they did during the weekend. Yeah, weekend chat, that's always fun on Monday mornings. Daily partner check-ins, community circles on Fridays. I think I know who wrote that. I'm not sure. Oops. Oh, okay, let's see. I start the year with a story about being different, which helps students to realize that being different is okay. Love it. Paired or group work, definitely. Partnering them up, letting them talk to each other, helping them to prepare is so good. Singing a lot and letting students choose songs to sing. I have a terrible singing voice, but I have been singing more in class. I just had to get past it. Checking in at the beginning of class and sharing something positive. Low stakes games. Yes, definitely. Games are huge. Calendar talk, weekend chat, personal questions. Ooh, bringing my ukulele and singing. Nice. Can you guys hear my dog snoring? Can you hear it? It's my dog.
Every once in a while.
He's over there just snoring away. All right. So thank you for sharing. See if I missed anything. Oh, don't forget to smile. Smiling helps so much, and daily routines. Routines are super important. Okay, I think that's it. I think we got everyone.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so at this time, we're going to have a quick brain break activity, a quick scavenger hunt. So as fast as you can, everyone who is willing to participate, please find 3 of the 5 items featured on the next slide, and then come and hold them up to your computer video thing. And the first person to show 3 items will win. All right, are we ready?
Can we see everybody? I think we can see everybody on here, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. And then if you're going to do this, I would recommend you turn your camera on so that you're ready because it's going to go really fast. And then the person to put up the 3 things is the winner. All right. You ready? Everyone's turning on their cameras now. Okay. On your mark. Get set. Go.
We have some people not even moving. They can find the things right next to them.
3. Oh, I think we have a winner.
I think so. I think Halamaku got it.
Yeah. All right. Oh, Jingwan got it. Okay. Natalie got it. Oh, Aya. No. Sorry. It's too early there, Aya. I got a paper clip. All right, Toshi. But Toshi, sorry, you didn't win though. All right. Okay, it looks like everybody came back. Oh, Janice got a jacket. Okay. Okay,
Nice.
so
All right. So congratulations, Kalamaku. You have the most random objects nearest to you today. Hooray!
We
Congrats.
celebrate. Woo, Kalamakua.
Celebrate.
And you
Yay.
get this lovely certificate of achievement. I'm sure that you will value it forever and ever, right? You can take a screenshot. All right. Okay, so back to why our brains love CCLT. So this brain breaks are considered brain-based teaching because they create opportunities for movement and also for interaction. So why is this impactful? It's impactful because movement triggers the motor cortex. The motor cortex helps with focus and retention. So the motor cortex is not just like the movement of our bodies, but it also is activated when we speak. It's activated when we do gestures, even when we write. And I've heard before that it's actually better for students to write things out in a notebook than it is for them to type in terms of memory and retention. And I think it has to do with that actual movement. And so different activities like TPR, writing, these all boost our memory and our fluency. Additionally, having those positive peer interactions can help lower the cortisol, which we've already talked about, but also this increases dopamine. So when we get up and we're doing a fun activity like the one we just did with the scavenger hunt, we're increasing the dopamine levels, which means more motivation. So dopamine is also known as the motivation molecule. It's released whenever we have enjoyable activities or when we feel a sense of achievement with something. And when dopamine is released, this encourages the behaviors to be repeated. So this supports habit formation and also it supports just practice. And so celebrating is super important because when we celebrate those small successes, we continue to boost the dopamine levels, which enhances learning.
So what kinds of CCLT activities and skills then do we do that create these opportunities for movement and interaction? So Jeenna's already mentioned a bunch of them, things like total physical response, working with gestures to connect meaning to the language. Also just transitions between activities, having students stand up, move around. Games, of course, so many different games involve physically moving or catching or throwing or triggering that motor cortex in some way. Things like gallery walks where you're walking over to something on a wall and interacting in some way with it and interacting with your peers. Something like readers theater where students become the actors as they're listening to the input from the teacher and having to move their body to over exaggerate whatever they're listening to, turning and talking with a partner, that interaction, changing partners, and of course, brain breaks, as we mentioned. So again, all of these you can explore more if some of these things are brand new to you. We have links to those. You can check those out. One that I want to highlight that worked really well in my classes this year is something called animal partners. It's a really simple activity that sets up some positive peer interactions and movement, and it's repeatable in different ways that I think just worked wonders as a great classroom management tool this year too. So what it is, if you've not heard of it, it's Animal Partners. I believe Anne-Marie Chase is the one who came up with this activity, and it's called, she called it Partner Up, I call it Animal Partners, but basically you're taking 9 different animals and everyone has the same 9 animals on a piece of paper and they're walking over and choosing someone to be their frog partner, for example. So I'd walk over to Jeenna and say, Jeenna, can you be my frog partner? And she'd put her name on my sheet and I'd put my name on her sheet. And now later, when the teacher says, okay, guys, it's time to get out your animal partner sheet, find your frog partner, grab your materials and sit together, then Jeenna knows, oh, I'm your frog partner. So we would get together, sit down, move our bodies, and prepare for this next activity. It is a very simple tool. And what it does is it takes out and lowers some of the cortisol by who's going to be my partner? Oh my gosh, is she going to pick me today? Like the stress that kids and teenagers can go through over the simplest thing, like choosing a partner, it can be unreal. So this is a way to get beyond that and have something pre-planned, pre-picked out. It also increases dopamine levels because, hey, you get to choose 9 people. And maybe you only have 3 friends in class, but this is a way to make this positive peer interaction, hopefully positive, but at least a peer interaction to give an opportunity to make deeper friendships or at least an acquaintance happen that might not otherwise have happened if you kind of give students too much autonomy when it comes time to choose partners. And then, of course, it triggers that movement. Just the simple fact of pulling out a piece of paper, looking up a name, looking over across the room, interacting, choosing, are we going to sit here? Should I move over there? What's going to happen? Like just that simple reset definitely helps to refocus what's going to happen next in case anyone has sort of checked out. So it's a great little activity. Highly encourage you to also check it out. So now we would love to know, what is your favorite brain break that you like to use in your classes? Something that encourages that movement with the motor cortex, you know, bringing up that dopamine, damping down that cortisol. What do you love to do in your classes for a brain break? Type it in the Pear Deck, and we're going to share them out with everyone else. We can all learn from each other what you like to do.
Okay. Oh, okay. I want to wait for a second, let people finish typing. All right. So in here we have chocolate, choco la la, choco tete. Then we have define, dibuja, actúa. So define, draw, and act, where students roll a dice. Okay.
Fun.
In small groups, I say using all the people in your group and your whole body, form a shark, form a wave. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Great.
Veo, I see.
Mm.
What's this one? Jan Ken Pon Train?
Kai Bible or
Go ahead.
No, I wrote it. This is you introduce each other in Jankenpon.
Oh, okay.
Keep screaming the winner's name, and then ultimately they become a 2 lines, and it's kind of loud, but it's fun.
Yeah, that's a fun one. Yeah, nice. Okay. So I've never really had brain breaks. Good thing for whoever wrote this to kind of look up and learn more about. So one more, the Jankenpo. Variations of rock, paper, scissors. This or that. Oh yeah, I like this or that. That's a good one. Hand jives. 3, 2, 1. Anyone want to share more about that?
That was me. So like if students are a little bit unsettled after lunch, it's kind of a mindfulness activity where it's like 3 things you can see, 2 things you can touch, 1 thing you can smell, or something like that, just kind of activating their sentences and calming them down.
Nice, nice. Radio calisthenics. Dancing?
That's awesome.
Filipino treats and would you rather? Yeah. Would you rather is a great one too.
Yeah.
Blank or blank. Yep. Awesome. Okay, lots of great ideas there. Okay, moving on. Okay, next activity. You're gonna draw. Okay, so on Pear Deck, I'm gonna give you 1 minute. So it's gonna be a fast draw. So think about what's your favorite summer activity. And I'm gonna start the timer here in a little bit. And you're gonna draw your favorite summer activity. Here we go. Here goes the timer. Did you hear that, Evelyn?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay, it has a little, I think I forgot to turn on the computer audio.
Little sound. Yeah.
But 30 more seconds. Everyone looks so serious.
Hard to write on a tiny screen with your finger, right?
Okay, 10 more seconds. this up back here. All right, I'm going to, should I lock their screens? I won't lock your screens if you're still drawing. Oh, that's everybody's all together.
I love it.
Like it as well. Okay. Ooh. Okay, let's take a look at this one. All right, so on this one, I see it looks like there's a person, and the person has blue dots at the bottom of their legs. Wonder what these blue spots could possibly be. And it looks like there's lines going out here. So these lines maybe show some movement. Maybe this person is moving. So my guess would be maybe this person is roller skating or ice skating, possibly, because they've got like that forward motion. Let's see. Let's take a look at this very interesting one here. This one, it looks like there's a whole bunch of blue squiggly lines, so maybe this could be water, possibly. And then, oh, I see. Okay, I see. There's a form here of a person. So there's one leg, two legs, and then we have an arm here, an arm here, the body, and then this here is the head. And I think these must be the goggles.
Oh yeah.
And then maybe this here is the snorkel. So maybe this person is snorkeling. That would be my best guess for that one. Snorkeler. Ooh. Okay, so this one. This is my favorite activity too, but I'm not really doing this summer. But it looks like this is a jet plane. It's going really, really fast, and it must be going someplace really fun. And then we have someone here that's on a board with a paddle, and they're out in the water because this is definitely a turtle. And let's see. All right, so we have somebody over here that must be listening to music. So, okay, so I wanted to share all of your drawings there of your favorite things for summer. Sleeping, love it. One of the best. My favorite thing about summer is not having to set my alarm clock. I still wake up really early, but I like that I don't have to set my alarm clock. So this type of activity where you have students draw and then you share out what they've drawn is a great activity and that's connected to the brain because it helps students feel successful and in control. There's not a wrong answer for this, right? You just say draw whatever, and then they get to see their own artwork and they also get to see all of the artwork of their peers. I do a lot of activities like this where I have students draw things and then I'll take pictures and put it into a slideshow and then I'll kind of picture talk it. So what I did there was sort of a little bit of picture talk in a very minor way. But why it's impactful is because when students have autonomy and feelings of success, it releases dopamine, which we know we want to have them release lots of dopamine because that helps them feel positive and want to repeat activities. It also increases their intrinsic motivation. And this also helps to balance their limbic system. So the limbic system actually has two parts that work together. So there's the amygdala, which we talked about before, the emotion regulator, but there's also the hippocampus, and the hippocampus is really more about memory and forming those long-term memories. So when these are working together, the personalization and creative tasks help improve or increase, the emotional engagement of students. And that is works together with the hippocampus to create memory formation and retrieval. So drawing those personal connections helps to encode that new information or a new vocabulary and make it encode more deeply.
So what other CCLT activities then would help those students feel successful and in control? So lots of art activities don't have necessarily a wrong answer, and it is giving students that control over what they are drawing. So these are always really, really strong activities to do in classes to give that success factor and that feeling of control to students. Anything like repetition, going slow to help keep students engaged and catching them when they've kind of zoned out or they're lost and bringing them back in. is going to help with that, balancing that limbic system again. Anything that is free choice. So FVR stands for free voluntary reading, SSR sustained silent reading. If you're not familiar with those terms, links are there to the Coffey resources page that gives a really in-depth explanation about what these are. But in short, they are providing opportunities for students to choose the reading material that they wish to engage with in class. So a lot of autonomy and a lot of feeling of in control in that moment there. Co-creating stories with your students, something like TPRS, is another way where students are engaging in that autonomy. They're giving suggestions and you're taking those suggestions and implementing them into the story. So that brings in that engagement. It gives them that scaffolded opportunity. Is it this or is it that? Do you want this thing or do you want that thing? Boosting that confidence again to help really help the brain to reach for that engagement and link some emotional syntaxes onto the experiences that are happening right then, right when their choices are being chosen. And oh, the teacher chose the thing I said, and now that's part of the story. Oh, this is so great, kind of a thing, right? In line with co-creating storytelling is something called one-word image, which I'll come back to in a second. And then, of course, personalized question and answers. So anytime you can create an interaction with a student that's focused on their life, focused on what they really feel about something versus another narrative that maybe you're creating in class, that's going to help link that feeling of like, ooh, I get to engage with my life and really feel like I have control because I'm talking about myself. And what do teenagers love to talk about but themselves? Because that's all they know at this time of life. And so that can really help to increase that successful feeling again when they're talking about what they're absolutely what they know best, right, themselves. Things like frequent quick quizzes to give them that instant feedback of like, this is what we know today. Wow, I got 5 out of 5. That's great. I feel successful. Things like free writes where they're timed, so where they can kind of write about anything, given all the content that you've been going over, to really show them at the end of this timed writing, like, look how many words and how many sentences and all the things you can talk about. So showing them back what they can do is really a powerful way of giving the students that feeling of success. Again, limiting that error correction, anytime they can turn and talk to a peer and really engage and again feel in control because they're engaging with their partner rather than sitting and listening, and then feeling successful because they can do it, hopefully even in the target language. But the one activity I want to come back to is one-word image. If you've not done this before in your classes, again, I highly recommend giving it a shot. One-word image is where you are creating a character in class together, and this is usually an inanimate object that you make animate, and all the students are giving all the choices and creating it with you. So you're offering, okay, is this pencil going to be bigger than a house or smaller than your desk? And that scaffolding is what's really helpful to provide that repetition, but then the students feel really successful because they can say, oh, smaller than my desk, right? And also in control because they are deciding what it's going to be. And you get to choose everything about this character. And at the end of maybe 10, 15 minutes, you can actually send this character off on an adventure. And so the students get to have that whole creative process where they were in control, creating, making the decisions, and now they get to send this thing off on a creative adventure. And the dopamine just can shoot through the roof at that moment when they are super invested in this very powerful activity that you can do with them completely in the target language. So it's a great way. It's a great activity that's really backed up by the research, helping those students feel successful and in control. And it's a great one to try with your students. So at this time, I want you to maybe drag the icon on your Pear Deck to anything on this list. What is one thing that you have not tried, but maybe you're curious about trying in your classes? Is it art activities, picture talk, TPRS, one-word image, free writes? What is one thing that you're really curious to try and implement maybe next year?
Or maybe you've tried it before, but you want to try to do it more often.
There we go.
All right. So looks like we have listen and draw, storyboards, picture talk, FVR, SSR, one word image, free writes. Free writes are really powerful. Once again, one word image, TPRS. It looks like some people are marking TPRS. So kind of all over the place, and it's great. There's so many resources out here to get you guys started with this over this summer. So highly encourage you to check those out. Okay, we're almost done. So
Right. We have one more quick activity that we're going to do.
Time-wise, we have 7 minutes. Okay.
Okay, thank you. We'll run through this one and still enjoy it. So what we're going to do right now, I'm going to describe to you a sport, and you are going to need to figure out what it is. And you're only going to get one clue at a time. Here's our first clue. You play in teams. The players use sticks. You need a ball. The players run and pass the ball. And there is a goalie. And our last clue, it's mostly played in Canada and the United States. So, what is the sport? Choose from the options listed on your Pear Deck. Is it A, ice hockey, B, lacrosse, C, Quidditch, D, broomball, or E, field hockey? Let's see, can we figure out just from these 6 clues? All right. What do we think? Are we ready? All right. So we have 5, 6 people have guessed something around there. Ice hockey. 6 have guessed lacrosse, 7 lacrosse. And looks like no one guessed Quidditch or broomball or field hockey. So great job, everyone. That is actually lacrosse. So well done. We did need a ball, and there was a goalie, and there were sticks and in teams. And I guess players running and passing the ball rather than a puck would have been the clue there between ice hockey and lacrosse. But great job. Okay, so maybe you noticed, but that last activity was entirely input based, right? I could do the whole thing with very sheltered vocabulary, very specific vocabulary to sports, which I find that high schoolers love talking about sports. It's another thing that everyone seems to know about, right? Sports. And kids love it. It's a game. It didn't require them to do anything, to do any kind of output, simply comprehending and listening. And these kinds of activities, specifically these kinds of games, are a wonderful again, another wonderful activity that provides opportunity for fun and curiosity, which is part of our brain-based teaching. And why is this impactful? That joy, that novelty, all of that releases dopamine, which is that hormone in the brain that we want more of, because it opens us up for making all that input stick. And it definitely reminds us teachers too that fun isn't just fluff, right? This is actual neuroscience. And we know that when things are joyful, when there's novelty, when it's fun, this will fuel long-term learning. So all sorts of activities like games, especially competitive ones, again, for my teenagers anyway, that seems to be the way that I get them mostly engaged. Things like brain breaks that we talked about earlier, storytelling like TPRS, or one word image, even things like clip chat, where you get to watch a little video and pause and talk about what's happening on the screen. It's a screen, it's engaging, it's novel because the kids maybe haven't seen it before, and it can be really joyful as you're kind of slowly telling this story and they don't know what's happening and the anticipation's building, right? Anything like that is a wonderful way to provide that fun and curiosity. Special person interviews where the students themselves are the topic of interest, because kids love to talk about themselves, is another way of just providing that curiosity about one another, building that classroom community, and really providing that joy in those moments. And even projects can provide for these ways of linking to all of these wonderful brain boosting hormones like dopamine and whatnot to really make that impactful for our students.
All right. Okay, well, as we mentioned before, we know we gave you a whole bunch of kind of information, but really the purpose is just to kind of just outline how the brain is connected to CCLT and then give you guys some starting points for a little bit further exploration. So, why do our brains love CCLT? Our brains love CCLT because it's all connected, right? And the brain research reminds us that language learning is deeply human. It's not just about vocabulary and grammar. It's about emotion. It's about motivation. It's about building confidence. And language learning isn't just a skill. It's a journey to empower, connect, and inspire. So I hope that you were inspired by today's presentation to dig a little bit more deeply, think about some things for the beginning of the year, how you're going to start it off, some things you want to try for next year. And then remember that we do have this resource document and it links all of the things that are on the slides for you here as well. Maybe we need to add a couple more things. And then there's some additional resource links down below. For the HIDOE teachers, if you're interested in the brain, that brain PD, I put a link here so you can find it. I also, there's the link to the Coffey Resources website. This Juegos para la Clase Español, this is just a document that I created for myself, but it has a whole bunch of different games if you're interested. Also, this book, Common Ground, is a great book. If you haven't read it yet, it does give you a lot of information about kind of connecting research on second language acquisition with the classroom. Evelyn, you mentioned Liam Printer and the Motivated Classroom, so I linked that as well. So anyway, this is some place to get you started. And the next session coming up, so we recorded session 1, we'll get that recording, put it in the agenda document for you so you can access it. The next session is going to be a language group special topic session. So what that means is it's more about, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm still getting over being sick. It's more about connecting with your language groups. So as much as possible, we're going to try and get same language groups together. I know Aya, you're leading the Japanese group next week. Depending on the different teachers, we might have to put other other character-based languages together with you. But so you know, the topics for next week for the character-based languages is really about how to stay in the target language from day 1. And then also how to introduce writing, you know, in a way that's aligned with CCLT. For the Spanish, French, and Filipino groups, we're talking about how to stay in target language from day 1, and then also how to boost, how to leverage cognates to boost comprehension. And then for the Hawaiian group, it's also how to stay in the target language from day 1, and then also how to introduce written language for Hawaiian and how to work with CCLT when you have limited resources. So each of the weeks that we do this special language or the language group special topics, we're going to try and focus on different things. So like, for example, week 5, the focus is going to be on culture. So then week 6 in the language groups, we'll talk more about culture. So we're trying to kind of link what we're doing in the first session with the second, in the third session with the fourth, and then in the 5th session with the 6th. Okay, I think that concludes our presentation. Does anybody have any questions? You could throw them in the chat or unmute if you want to at this time.
There's one question from Zachary for, I think, Evelyn in the chat.
Okay, I missed it.
Oh, okay. So Zach says, how would you provide vocabulary for the hints for the game? I'm assuming. Would it be also with various pictures showing the difference between single player versus a game or a team? Absolutely. So you can do, especially if the game is going to go through multiple sports, there's going to be a lot of common language. So I would probably start with a few pictures showing like a single person versus a team so that they hear the words player versus team. I'd use different things for ball or bat or stick or goalie because a lot of that's specialized vocabulary. But because in the game you're going through 15 different sports, it's going to come in handy and they're going to hear it over and over and over again. So right at the beginning, I'd probably just use a quick introduction, because by the 15th game, they will have connected what these words mean. And you won't need to reference the pictures anymore. So, but yeah.
Yeah. When I did this game in my class, I didn't really it was towards the end of the year, and so they already had pretty solid foundation with a lot of the stuff. And so it was really more the specialized vocabulary that came up. And I would just give them a quick translation. I didn't even really bother doing any introductory. It was more like end of class, let's do this quick game. And I'd be like, oh, palo, that means stick. And then they just go from there. So that's kind of how I addressed it. All right. Any other questions before we sign off? Okay, well, thank you so much. We're going to be having we're going to be doing evaluations, but we're going to be doing it the next session. So you'll have a chance to do evaluations then. And we look forward to seeing you next week, Teacher Tuesday at 10 o'clock. And we'll put you into language groups and let you guys talk with your same language colleagues. Muchas gracias. Mahalo. Thank you.
Merci. Thank you all.
Merci.
Thank you very much.
You.
Thank you.
You.